to me about the effectiveness of this drug developed with the backing of the Sovereign Wealth Fund. You're looking to ship it out to hospitals in just a few weeks. What does the data show you about how effective this could be?
Well, we believe it's one of the most efficient drugs. Frankly, it's the first antiviral drug in Russia against COVID. It's one of the only 2 antiviral drugs against COVID registered in the world. And what we've seen is that the mean time to virus elimination gets reduced from 9 to 4 days when people are using this drug. And you also have 65% of the people who have no virus after 4 days. And it got approved because we really got lots of very positive results from this generic version of Avigan, which is originally was Japanese medication to fight flu. But we made some modifications to it. We also changed some of the dosage and really proved clinically for the first time in the world that this modified drug really does work very well in not allowing COVID to replicate within human cells.
Do you think it will be more effective than some of the rivals out there? I'm thinking Gilead's remdesivir.
Well, again, I think there is enough of a problem out there for all of the different treatments that work to be there. So it's really not a competition. We definitely follow remdesivir. They reduced some of their numbers today, and they showed some modest improvement. Our drug also helps moderate cases, but we see very substantial improvement in our patients. And also, it can be used taking tablets versus the injection from remdesivir. But again, I think the world needs all of the possible treatments that work. One of the biggest problems that there was no antiviral against COVID even as of 1 month ago. So it's a great improvement that we have this drug that clinically has proven to work well.
Kirill, I am not a scientist, and many of our viewers as well are not scientists as well. So I want you to walk me through something to make sure I'm understanding it correctly, that it was used in clinics, I believe, before the 3rd stage clinical trial. If that's the case, what are you expecting from that 3rd stage clinical trial?
Yeah, we are also working just a little bit with different dosage, but to make the situation very simple, this is originally a Japanese drug that worked very well against flu in Japan. But there was a question, does it really work against COVID? And with some modifications, we showed that it does work against COVID. So we took clinical trials of 330 people and showed that the people on our drug, favipiravir, are doing twice as best versus the control group. So it's going to be shipped 60,000 doses to Russian hospitals this month. We'll be producing 60,000 doses every month. And we have significant interest from other nations to start trial of this drug. And by the way, the original Japanese drug is having some clinical trials in the U.S. now and many other countries. So we believe it's a very hopeful development for the world.
And Kirill, it was interesting that earlier this morning we got some data from Gilead's remdesivir, and a few weeks ago some of the studies came out, looked very promising, and then this morning they came out and said that it really showed only a limited benefit in a large trial of moderate patients, not showing as much of an improvement, I think, as they wanted. Are you on similar terms also worried potentially about a similar setback as well?
Well, we definitely always control risks, and we are open to have other countries, test the substance. But the results we've shown so far are very clear, actually. So yes, we are monitoring what will happen with the next set of trials, but we are very hopeful because we clearly see that the drug really, we know how it works. It has very known situations where you cannot take the drug. If you're a pregnant woman, you cannot take it. If you're planning a family, you cannot take it for 3 months. But we understand the mechanism of working of the drug. And of course, we could have some surprises, but so far, so good.
At the end of all of this comes down to health, safety, and really the economic struggles that all of these countries have been dealing with as we face this pandemic. On those lines, Trump came out earlier and said that he wanted to invite Russia back to the G7 to really have a meeting, given that you two have been affected by this pandemic. Are you open to that, being a part of some of the meetings of the G7?
Well, there was a call between President Putin and President Trump today, and I understand they discussed this G7 situation. I think it's very clear that so far G20 has been a more powerful group because so many more countries are included, and it really can address world problems in a more substantial way. So extending G7 to some countries, additional countries, we believe makes sense. But again, it's up to G7 to make this decision. We believe that coronavirus epidemic shows that different countries need to work together. We are willing to share information about our drugs, about our vaccines, our testing systems. So we really believe it's time to put lots of the political differences aside. We believe it's time to improve the relations between Russia and US and many other nations. And it's a time to put things in perspective. I think virus made us put things in a perspective.
Are you open to extending some of the production cuts as we take a look at the impact that this pandemic has had on oil prices, with crude and Brent around $35 a barrel? How are the relationships with Saudi Arabia going? What oil production cuts are you open to?
Well, I think June 4th will show the decisions. I think the relationship is very solid. We are very happy with the oil deal that was struck also with the help of the United States. And United States, Russia, Saudi Arabia really had a very positive set of discussions. So already we see major improvement in oil prices. It's 35 versus, I'm not talking about negative oil price, but it was in 20s. And we are very hopeful of the alliance going forward. I think OPEC is committed to the deal. We see very high compliance numbers. So we believe the oil prices will be in good shape. We do not expect major declines in oil prices, even though the economy needs some time to recover, obviously, in the world.
And finally here, we take a lot of looks at the ruble. There has been some concern, of course, that tourism isn't happening as people globally aren't traveling. If tourism picks up domestically within Russia, how do you see that impacting the ruble?
Yeah, ruble weakened quite a bit when oil prices were low, but it really regained most of the losses. It's almost, at the level where it was 3 months ago, and it solidified very strongly this month. So we'll see what happened to oil prices, but definitely Russian economy is starting to resume. Of course, we could have different waves of the virus, but we are hopeful and we believe ruble will be stable.